besties. You're currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show!
Towards you, it's deep and it's blue. Sink or swim, baby, don't go loving him. Wait for me, I'll come and set you free, but until then I'll keep on swimming in the sea. Now baby, I'll swim all day, fish in my way, baby, my little peach, always just out of reach. Wait for me, baby, I'm coming to set you free, but until then I'll keep on swimming in the sea. Now every man needs a princess, woman to call his own. And after looking high and low in this kingdom, still go to bed alone. And I promise, baby, I promise you, you're worth every bit of the hassle. But every time I think I found you, baby girl, you're in someone else's castle. Why you do this to me, baby? I'm diving down, try not to drown. I know it seems my quest is just a pipe dream, but wait and see, there's a prince for you, and it's a me. But until then, I'll keep on swimming in the sea.
I still remember just finding that one random panel. It's just Svetlana, be racist. And then just her saying something that's like nothing but black bars. How do you like
Yeah.
that, Frenchie? My wife hates your entire race.
Yeah. Anyway, we are live now. It is 10 after. Welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. It was a slow news day, so I invited Buck to come on, and we're mostly just going to be shooting the shit today. We were, prior to being visible to all of you, when we were backstage, we were just talking about how it's a shame that there have been very, very few accurate portrayals of Marvel comic characters, specifically in video games, with big gaps in between. And right now, the only one is a good game, but not the style either of us are interested in.
I mean, to be fair, well, you know what? Not to be fair, just to hit the nail on the head even worse, the only time they're accurate to the comics now is bullshit in modern comics that no one likes.
Yeah, I guess actually, most of the video games aren't even accurate to that, right? Like, I watched somebody play through the Miles Morales addition to the original Spider-Man game and through Spider-Man 2, and even that's not really accurate to the horrible stuff going on in modern comics, which might be better for them to that degree, in the same way that, like, Into the Spider-Verse was better off not being accurate to the comics as well. I don't like the storytelling in Spider-Man 2, like, at all, but it is still, pun intended, miles better than the comics that are running at the same time.
I mean, I was mostly referring to all the lip service to the Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel and fucking Ultimate Alliance 3.
Yeah. Alliance 3, awful. Which is even worse because, you know, I think, what was it, Alliance 2 that I played with you? I can't remember. Which one was, like, really...
The original
It was
Alliance.
the original? Okay. The one that was, like, super focused on the Civil War, right?
Oh, no, wait, I guess we played both.
We probably did.
Because I remember... Okay, yeah, I remember now. We played both of them.
And I like those because they were pretty dungeon crawlery, right? They had like that Diablo-esque gameplay to it, which I happen to be a fan of. And honestly, I thought that those games were more true to the characters from the comics than even the Civil War comic was, because they kind of like bastardized all the characters to make Civil War happen. And the game, like, well, we actually have to try to justify this somehow.
Yeah, you actually had a more nuanced thing going on for why people are on each side, instead of just Tony 100% obviously being an authoritarian dickhead.
Yeah.
And then the entire story trying to bend over backwards, trying to say, well, that's not entirely bad. It's like, I'm sorry, you have him enforcing a law that isn't even a law yet, sending out hit squads to attack powered teens who have done nothing but help civilians, created a prison in another dimension and are arresting people without trial,
Yeah.
and shoving nanites in supervillains' brains to mind control them.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I really liked about those games, too, I always tell anybody, if they have access to those games, if you really want to experience the best version of Marvel Civil War, you don't read the comics. They're awful. Don't watch the movie. What was it, Captain America Civil War? I think they made it one of the Captain America movies.
Yep.
Slightly less awful, though I guess a lot of normies like that one. Go and track down the older Ultimate Alliance games and play that one instead. I thought the cool thing about it is the few good comics that came out of the Civil War were the tie-in comics, right? Like, you know, I happen to really like the Miss Marvel Civil War tie-in comic series, which is pretty cool. You just have her and Wonder Man running around together, trying to, like, fight Hydra agents or whatever, right?
Yeah, because, I mean, somebody has to do the actual superhero shit while this is going on.
But I enjoyed that to add more gameplay, to actually give you more things to do in the older Ultimate Alliance games. They actually pulled things from those tie-in comics for like side missions and brought in those characters who really just weren't involved actively in the Civil War at all. Like you got to hear some of their opinions that were going on, and they felt very true to what the character would have said if you got to hear their opinion of it in the comics. Probably more so if they had actually shown up and given their opinion in the comics. It seemed like the devs went out of their way to be like, what are these characters actually like? I think that is definitely the best way to enjoy Civil War.
Yeah, and plus, when you decide which side of it you're on, obviously the dedicated characters to each side are completely locked out for most of the game. But all the characters who are undecided and will swap to whatever side you decide to be on in the game, they have 2 entirely different biography sets for each of these characters to explain their personal thoughts for why they agreed with the choice the player made.
Oh, yeah. Which is why those games were so good. I think we just need to pretend that Ultimate Alliance 3 just never happened. You know, like how we pretend there's only one Matrix, I think we need to pretend that there's only 2 Ultimate Alliance games.
Yeah, because I played it all the way through, and the gameplay is fine. It plays like the other ones, so
yeah,
it's still fun to play. It's just the story is ass.
Yeah. You know what game played like those that I was really enjoying, and they decided to end it just when it hit the peak of my enjoyment? Was what was it? Marvel Heroes, I think. Whatever the online one that we played.
Yeah, I remember.
Because that also had that Diablo-esque dungeon crawler gameplay to it.
And you know what's the dumb part?
Yeah.
I feel like one of the reasons why that failed so poorly too was when they just decided to scrap everything and redo the entire visual style to try and make it look like more like the movies.
Yeah. And they had already redone a lot of things, right? Like, because I remember at the beginning, it was almost more of a gacha game at first, right? When it came to how you got your characters. But the gameplay was also just not as good, and they revamped all of the gameplay dynamics to just make it a better game within the first year that it was out.
Yeah, and then they just decided, you know what, let's change the visual style to look like the movies that are coming up. And they sunk so much money into completely redoing the visual style of this entire game, which also pushed back the release of a bunch of characters that popped up on PC but never showed up on the consoles.
Yeah.
And basically guaranteed it died out.
You know, I think they were also a little ahead on the curve when it comes to, like, I guess the equivalent. I would say that it's like a AA game. The amount of investment they put into it, year by year while it was running. It wasn't quite AAA, but it was like big. It was mainstream, and it got quite a bit of funding. Might have been one of the reasons why they killed it, because they just weren't getting enough players to match the AA funding. But it was like, character collection was almost a gacha, right? Like they were using almost like gacha game tactics before console-sized gacha games were like a thing. Like this is before Genshin Impact or anything like that. I think they were a little too ahead of their time. And if they had continued, if they didn't butcher certain aspects, and they had did it now, they probably would be even more successful than they ever were.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah.
Especially with how many characters they had in it.
Oh,
like, there are so many characters that just for some reason are never playable in any other game, but you had them front and center in this game.
Like, Angela was playable. How often do you see her in anything?
Yeah, definitely.
She was fun, too.
I think the only thing she's popped up in since is Marvel Rifles.
Yeah. I loved using her ribbons as just like a constant ticking AoE running around. It's just like whipping everything.
Oh yeah, and Beast. I can't count how many games he's in, just never as playable.
Yeah, because I think one of the benefits of having something similar to a Diablo-esque hero game is that it's really easy to have a bunch of different classes, right? That really just plays into the strength of the character. And they don't all have to be the same. You're not having like an archetype where it's like these are all the bruiser characters or these are all the tanks. In like a League of Legends style way or like a Dota way, you could very easily just flesh out every single character's mechanics to feel unique to them. And I think that made the game fun. Heck, I mean, and the personality, talk about like the people making the game understood the characters. I had a hell of a time playing Carol in Marvel Heroes Ultimate or whatever the hell they called it. It had like, I know the Heroes was like the main part, but it had like 5 or 6 different
Marvel Heroes
subtames.
Omega, that's it.
Omega. Well, that was like fittingly the last title, I think, but it had like 4 or 5 different titles throughout its run.
Yeah, like originally it was just Marvel Heroes. I don't remember what the one in the middle was. I just remember that by the time that I got into it, it was Omega.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I finally got Beast. I played him for a while, which was really fucking fun. But then it's like, yeah, the game's shutting down. It's like, motherfucker.
Oh yeah, because we played it quite a bit together when we could. Ivan, our old friend, I mean old, like not that we've known him for a long time, though we have, but that he's like a generation and a half older than us, right? Michael Paddock. I got him into that, and it's like, it's a fun game if you can get like a much older person into the game. And I was playing that with him for a while, and right around that time is when they decided to start like weaning things down and shutting all the servers after that.
I'm still mad that since I was only able to do it on the console, I never got the chance to try out Black Bolt.
Yeah.
Because he was one of the characters that hadn't made it to the console yet.
It did suck, and this was like an earlier just thing in general, especially dealing with like PlayStation and other stuff, that it wasn't a joint server, right? So the PlayStation version was just behind the PC version constantly. It's something that you don't normally have now, especially when we look at things that are the AAA level or have that level of budget, like Genshin Impact or something, where it's just one unified server. Actually, even other things that aren't in that same zone, like that one game you were playing for a while, Dauntless, the Monster Hunter like game. Everything's just a single server now, right? I feel like if they were already at that period where everything was a single server, that also would have benefited them. Because I think even a lot of the console players just felt demotivated being behind all the time.
Yeah, like by the time we had access to new areas, it's like, oh, by the way, the entire story for this expanded area has already been completely spoiled. Here's a meta that you've got to build for. Any PC crossover people are just going to completely make you feel like utter trash because they're just farming the area for XP while you're not able to do a single fucking thing.
Yeah. That's why you really just had to make friends and play with them and then be fine. Because some people don't mind, right? Like, I think Michael liked the fact that I was higher level and was carrying him through stuff. But a lot of people, they just want to experience things raw. So you want to find somebody who's like your same level, or one of the cool things, since that was a hero-based game, is you could always just switch to somebody else, right, who is already lower level, and then you could play that one with your friends. Yeah. I think another thing, because I always hate talking about people on the other version being ahead. Mobile games used to suck before global became the standard. Like, just horrible. It was good for, like, hardcore sweats who wanted to win in PvP or who just wanted to get, like, world first or something, which wouldn't be world first, right? It would be first for our server, but technically because we're behind, world first has already happened. But a lot of the mobile games that I used to play all the time, the Final Fantasy ones, some of the original independent ones didn't matter. They would have like a Japanese or Chinese server, depending on where it started. And then you would be on a server that's like 6 months to a year behind for global, because that's when it finally came out. And sometimes eventually they would find a sweet spot where they felt comfortable compressing everything to get you on like a faster roadmap. After like, okay, everybody's established, we can kind of start speeding things up. But sometimes it would be 4 or 5 years into the game and you didn't know if it was even going to last that long. And everything would be spoiled for you since the other server was ahead. You almost wanted to play on the other server using like a Japanese Google Play account or something on really, really bad ping just so that you could experience it and not be spoiled. But again, the Sweats liked it because they knew what the meta was coming. So it benefited like a really small amount of players and it ruined it for like everyone else. I'm glad global release is a standard now.
Yeah, very much so. It is so much better.
Yeah, could you imagine like, I don't know, ZZZ, because that's one that you play too. Could you imagine if like ZZZ, I know you're behind, so technically, effectively you're in that area unless you've caught up already. But could you imagine if we were 6 months behind on the story and everything, like that's a very story focused game too, and everything was just spoiled before we even had the opportunity to get to it? That would suck. I think if those were the case, I wouldn't even start those games until like years later where I'm like safely just in backlog anyway.
That does remind me, I still need to catch up.
I was going to play some today on stream, but I just ended up not.
I'm a lot closer.
Where did you leave off?
Kinda starting in the temple.
Oh, okay. So you actually made it to Wi-Fi Peninsula.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people have been critical of it. They said the story is not as good in Season 2 as it was in Season 1. It is definitely different. I don't really think the quality has gone down, personally. Not going to spoil anything because you're not that far, but I feel like in general it's just more integrated from the start, and maybe that's part of the reason why it feels different to a lot of people. While like the first season, it was this faction, this faction, this faction, this faction, this faction, this faction, and then they all came together at the end, right? In Season 2,
Yeah.
there is still a little bit of like doing stuff with this faction for a while, doing stuff with this faction, but it's more integrated from the beginning. So once you're like set up with the temple, even if you start doing things with the 1 or 2 other factions there, the temple being your HQ is kind of always involved with everything. I think the closest thing you got to that was maybe the Cunning Hares would be involved with something in Season 1 when you were dealing with somebody else. But even that wasn't always the case. And also, I think it's because it's less focused on the individual problems of the faction. That might be another problem that a lot of people have. Because while the individual problems with each of the factions in Season 1 did ultimately lead up, like they were setting up the stones for the bigger plot, they don't really do that as much here. You meet these other factions as you're uncovering the bigger plot. So kind of the same thing happens, but in like the reverse sequence, if that makes sense. Right, it's like, I guess Spook Shack, for example. Spook Shack's a really good example on that. In season 1, we could compare the Sons of Caledon. You don't meet the Sons of Caledon because necessarily the story. Well, actually, I think they're the one that actually does do that. They're the bad example. I'll say Victoria House is maybe a better one, right? You meet them while you're in the building, but it's not because you're necessarily investigating the main story. There's almost like a side quest attached to the main story for the character Rain, right? And then you kind of just become involved with Victoria House because they're doing something there too, right?
Yeah.
In the second season with the Spook Shack, something almost similar happens, but it's less of you're doing something and you become involved with Spook Shack because they're also doing something, but that you become involved with them because they're directly related to the exact plot at the time. The same thing with Krampus. So it does feel a little different. I get why some people, maybe they don't like the feel as much because they just really liked how it is. To me, though, from like a writer's perspective, it still feels kind of cohesive. I see the differences with the patterns. It's only a slight subversion, and you don't necessarily want to do things exactly the same way every single time anyway. That would be kind of boring.
Also, can I just say that I still find it weird that there's a newer faction called Spook Shack when we already have had a faction in season 1 that are all based on horror movie icons.
Yeah, I can see that. The Spook Shack is more like, I want to say almost like Scooby-Doo or like Ghost Hunters, right? Because the actual Spook Shack is a forum board that they all meet each other from. So, I don't know. I would compare them a little more like the Boxcard Kids or children or like one of those books that chapter books you'd read as a kid where there's just like a group of kids trying to solve a mystery together. That's what the Spook Shack is, which I like them. I think, I don't know what my favorite faction is in season 2 because the main story of season 2 is over. We're in like the post season 2 part. Angels of Delusion are still coming out. They're the next ones. So maybe they'll grow on me. But all 3 of them are just so solid. The ones that we dealt with in the main story. But I might actually default to the Temple just because I really like martial arts and all the Temple people are pretty good at Yunque Summit. But Spook Shack almost reminds me of like us running around as kids. So I have like a sweet spot for them, you know? Because we used to run around doing stupid things in high school.
Yeah, I haven't experienced much other than the temple at the moment, so I haven't really met any of the season 2 factions yet other than them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the 3 factions are Yunque Summit, Spook Shack, and Krampus, which is a what's it called? Internal affairs for tops, basically. Which you should have one of them for free if you logged in, right? You got Zhao is a member of the Krampus Authority.
Oh,
and
right,
you had
the little
Banwei,
bunny.
right? You pulled Banwei, right? He's also
Yes, I did.
technically Krampus, even though he's kind of both Krampus and the Temple, but as far as like mechanics, they count him as a Krampus Authority agent. Which, that's actually, you probably have a really good team for him then, right? Between having Banwei and Zhao, because you can use the Krampus Bangbu with them, and then you can just put like whatever support in there. It should help you get through literally everything that you have left to get through.
I mean, so far, So far, having the same team I had before, just having Banwei instead of Ben.
Yeah.
So now it's Lighter, Banwei, and Piper.
Piper. Oh. See, I don't know if you'd want Piper on that team. Unless you're confusing Piper and Lucy.
No, it's Piper.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want a anomaly agent on that team. Especially being like a full, like Mono Fire, I think would probably be better. It's just to put Lucy on that team and treat Banwei like an attacker.
Yeah,
But
I could
hey,
try that.
Whatever works, you know.
I just know that between the three of them, I've been decimating the stuff I've been dealing with so far.
Yeah. We definitely too. As you catch up and you finally hit like the level cap and everything, you probably won't want to do all the end game because I don't know if that stuff interests you. But at least with Shi, you might want to do like the easy part of it, which is like the first floor, the first 4 floors of it, and you do need 2 teams for that. And Piper is such a good agent that you could just like run her as the main attacker on the other team, like as an anomaly agent, your main DPS. So you'd probably just want to be able to structure 2 teams. I would not worry. I don't know if I ranted about this on stream. I really hate what they did to Shiyu defense. You haven't played it, so you don't even know that it was changed or what the change was, right? But the Shiyu defense is their general rotating end game mode, right? Where it's kind of, I want to say like a light version of Bloody Palace from Devil May Cry, which is funny because this game's got 2 different versions of that. And people will be like, what are you talking about? Shiyu defense is nothing like Bloody Palace. I'm only saying that because I know the evolution of the different games that led us here. Because the Quantum Abyss in Honkai Impact 3rd was like Bloody Palace. Sort of. That's where they got the inspiration from. Which then gave us Spiral Abyss, which gave us all of the different versions of that. So it's like a weird light version of Bloody Palace. But then ZZZ also gives us the Endless Tower, which is actually like Bloody Palace. It's funny and confusing. But it used to be where like you have different floors, you've got 2 different sides, 2 nodes, and you need a team for both ones. And they used to have 7 floors, and the 7th floor would be the hardest one with the most rewards. Now they condensed it down to 5 floors, where like I think most of the rewards are on the 5th floor, if I recall. And instead of being a 2-team rotation, it's 3. And instead of being a time trial, like the previous ones, it's a score trial, where you're trying to get the highest score that you can. But we already have a 3-team score trial with Shiyu, no, with, sorry, not Shiyu defense is what I'm talking about, with Deadly Assault. But also, they just made Threshold Protocol, which is also a mix between Shiyu defense and Deadly Assault as like a big endgame mode that rotates maybe once a season or whatever. And now all 3 of these big endgame modes just feel the same, which is boring. And I fucking hate Shiyu defense now. It was my favorite rotating mode, and now I fucking hate it. I don't know why they did that. They could have just made it better with 2 teams. Why? But for at least the easy 4 floors, you will want 2 teams, and Piper's a pretty good one to have. You might like the Endless Tower though. Like that one, I think is probably the real challenge of the game. Like the one that's actually worth doing. I don't think like there is an rotating game mode for that one too. That it changes like once a season. So there's the fixed tower, and then there's one where they update it. But that one is kind of like Bloody Palace from Devil May Cry, where there's like just a whole bunch of floors and you're progressing through it. It's like the Cave of Ordeals from Twilight Princess or anything like that, right? And there's like no healing. You progress 10 floors at a time, so you get all your health stuff every time you clear 10 floors. But there's like no healing in between. You unlock more characters as you go, so you can swap out your teams. But it's just no time. Take as long as you need to clear. Just dodge and get good at the game. After a certain floor, you lose your parry markers too. So you just have to like learn the enemies. That one I find fun to a degree. I didn't when it first came out because it almost felt like it was punishing you for not owning a lot of characters. I find it more fun now that I just have a loaded roster and can play around with whatever I want. I typically don't respect the challenge in these games if they don't give you trial characters, because otherwise you can't be sure that you have the characters that you can play with, or that you have the gear for them, right? And I think a good trial is built around puzzle pieces and your skills, not RNG and get fucked. But Endless Tower is better. That's the true endgame mode, if you ask me. They need to do more with that.
I will have to keep that in mind when I start playing more often.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to be maxed out to beat it either. And if you just want to get the rewards before diving into it, you just have to clear the first 15 floors. If you can clear the first 15 floors, that's all of the pull currency. After that is all just for fun and maybe bragging rights, you know? But that's also where it starts to get fun. I've seen people, like, you can find videos of it. There are people who will go in with just a single character instead of a full team, and they'll like solo a boss with just Billy. It'll take them forever to do it, but it is really satisfying to watch somebody just solo a boss with Billy. Right? That'd be like doing the hardest floor in Bloody Palace, using only the Ebony and Ivory in Devil May Cry 3. Like, that's a hard challenge, but it's satisfying to watch. It's a good game, though. It's a good game. For now. I have a little bit of faith that it'll remain a good game, I think. It's one of those things where I am hesitant to think it'll stay a good game just because I'm looking at what's happening to Honkai Star Rail and how that's like power creep the game right now. But
yeah,
the ZZZ devs, I think, are trying to mitigate that as much as possible. There's been some HP inflation, but you kind of need that for the game to remain interesting. Also, there was HP inflation that had to happen right away because everybody wanted all three of the people to be able to ult all the time, which meant that the damage in your team skyrocketed immediately. I remember when they made that change, that Shiyu defense was the easiest one to defeat ever because they had not updated the health on the enemies yet, and everything was just like paper mache. Having 3 ults just tore through everything. They had to increase the difficulty of stuff to make up for that. But also Deadly Assault didn't exist yet, which was a completely different challenge. So the updates that they've been doing to characters have been mostly just to make up for the fact that the game did not exist in the state that those original characters were made in. So they weren't built for that state. And they've been doing a pretty good job of updating. Like, Ellen feels fine if you get all of the potential upgrades that they just put out for her. And she was a character they needed to buff twice. Soldier Zero and B, they also needed to buff twice. But she feel fine now, too. I've just finished upgrading her. Though in Anne B's case, that is entirely their fault of not understanding their own game and how the kit worked, because she came out after these things already existed, and it's like, how did you drop the ball on her that bad? But some of them are fun. Oh, you know what's actually the most fun thing? So, They did a combat event recently where you go to the HIA and you go to the expert trial lady. What's her name? Lila, I believe. And she'll have like an event going on at the time, right? And it'll be a bunch of little trials that'll each have trial characters, but you can use your version of the trial characters if you happen to own them. You don't need to, though. All of them you could easily get an S+ if you're good at the game and you just use their characters. In some of the trials, actually, I had to use their characters because my Ye Guang was so fucking strong that I literally could not go into her empowered state enough times before killing them. Right? I couldn't rack up the stacks that I needed because I was doing too much damage. So I had to exit out and use their trial version. I didn't realize that my build was that good. I looked it up on like one of the like drive scorer sites, I think of the Internet Network, and I had like a god piece and a few like triple S's and 0 pieces. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. My character's just too strong. I'll use your trial. But they have a bunch of different ones. They'll have it for like anomaly they had 2 anomalies. They also have a disorder one. And the trial team they let you use in the disorder one was so fun that it makes me want to rebuild these characters because both of them got buffs recently. I really liked Bernice when she came out. Bernice is such a fun character to play. And I've liked Grace since the beginning of the game, but both of them were falling off pretty hard. Grace was particularly never that good as like a main DPS. She kind of had to be a sub DPS, but after they fixed Disorder, Anomaly wants to be in a double DPS situation anyway. So the trial team they gave was Yuzaha, Bernice, and Grace, which I have all 3 of them. And it was so explosive, like saving both Bernice and Grace's ults to do like back to back. Because Bernice is one of those ults that when you activate it, it gives you the quick assist to go into the other person. And I use Grace's, and now after she ults, she just starts chucking grenades if you hold the skill button down until she runs out of stacks or time. I forget exactly how it works, but she's just like grenade chucking like crazy. It felt like I was playing Genshin, not ZZZ, right? With like an overload reaction, having this like fire then pyro and electro character back to back, right? It didn't happen. They don't have that type of reaction system in this game. It just felt like that, where the anomaly procs and the disorder from this all going off at once. I saw the boss in the trial go from like 100 to 0 all at once. I'm like, I need to build this team. This is a stupid team. It's fun. But it's stuff like that that actually gives me hope. That's like, no. The HSR team is just the HSR team. Genshin's doing pretty good at keeping characters relevant. ZZZ, it's only been over a year, and they're already trying to keep characters relevant. I need to not bring that negativity over to their other games just because Star Rail is like in a weird place.
Yeah, I wish I could do the same thing for when I was playing Midnight Suns, except for Firaxis's normal issue started rearing its ugly head, and that's fucking memory leaks.
Oh, yeah. The problem with a game like that is there will never be an update for it because it's just the one and done that they don't even care about anymore, I think. I don't even know. What studio did Midnight Suns?
Firaxis.
Yeah, but what else did they do? I don't know that name off the top of my head.
XCOM.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, I know them. That's a problem XCOM's had before too.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I didn't realize when I started playing it, because at first it's like, I'll get it for free, and it's a card battler, I guess, and turns out it's less a card battler and more like Marvel XCOM, but your abilities are listed as cards instead of like skills based on weapons and gear and shit.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would because of that. especially since it's one of the first games I played that wasn't a strictly Hulk game where the Hulk actually felt like Hulk.
Yeah, and I think that type of XCOM strategy style is a form of turn-based game that even people who don't typically like turn-based games can usually get around. Like, the turn-based nature doesn't usually bother them. I think the map combat is probably one of the reasons, though. It probably helps you just feel a little more engaged in what's going on.
Oh yeah, like if I was just standing there and picking an attack and then, oh, there you go. I probably wouldn't have liked it as much, but there is actual map combat. You can move yourself to certain points to get bonuses. You can knock enemies into other enemies. You can use environmental attacks, which is the big reason why by the time I was done playing, it's like favorite duo to have, just Hulk and Spidey. Because Spider-Man, best character for using the environment to just take out half of the enemies on the board, and then Hulk just starts the round hitting like a truck and then ends the round hitting like a fucking freight train.
Yeah. Yeah. Which you
I've
don't
actually
normally get.
beaten missions in a single round with those two.
You don't get a lot of characters like that in usual XCOM games. I think that's one of the reasons why people really liked the Mario Rabbids Kingdom, whatever, Clash of Kingdoms or whatever it was called. Because you had like the Donkey Kong Rabbit.
Kingdom Battle and Spark of Hope.
Yeah, those ones. Right, because Donkey Kong and the Donkey Kong Rabbit were kind of like Hulk-like characters. Like, you just don't normally get those type of ones in those usual map combat RPGs in the same way. But these games give you such a diversity of the cast that you can get characters like that. Because a lot of them are just like either shooters or traditional fantasy, like high fantasy RPGs, right? So you might get a tank, maybe, like a rook or something, but you're not going to get something like the Hulk or Donkey Kong in most of these types of games. But you do in these ones, these specific ones.
Yeah, and it just feels so great to do that kind of stuff. And it's like, why doesn't XCOM realize that we want this kind of things? Like, how is it that adding mutons and brutes are two of the like most popular mods for XCOM, and yet when they make a game that actually has a muton as a playable character, they're still basically just, I have this little shield and a gun.
Yeah, I think the closest they got, I think in 2 they did bring in like the battle suits, like the little mecha, but even then they're just so restrictive they're not worth it. Like, they just don't do what you want them to do. They're nigh indestructible by comparison, but they're just like, they're not what you want them to be.
Yeah, because there's just so many things that your enemies are able to do that you can end up replicating later, but then it's like the stuff they're doing just completely smashing through your units, and it's like, okay, why don't I get something that can do that?
Yeah. You know, it'd be a good franchise to do something like that. Almost as if they have done it before, but it just wasn't wildly popular. And maybe it could be popular this time around because there's more people into the franchise. Fallout would be great to have that style of like turn-based tactics combat, especially with the power armor and ghouls and super mutants and all the different things you could possibly have. Wouldn't that be such a fun thing to do?
I mean, hell, Fallout has arguments for why you'd be able to have usable Deathclaw units too.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other franchises to try that. Halo tried that once with Halo Wars. And technically that game was successful because it was a very low budget game compared to their normal stuff, and it made way more than its budget back. It just wasn't like popular enough to justify them ever doing it again. But I would argue, because the original like Halo team from Bungie was still working on the story during that time, that it's still more of a Halo game than anything that's been made after Bungie left.
I'd buy that argument.
Yeah. Dude, have you seen the sorry state that Halo's in?
Yeah, I've even seen like some of the original devs on Twitter complaining about the remake.
Oh, dude, that
It's
was
like,
my favorite thing for like a week after the trailer came out, was just looking at all the like, I was the level designer for the original Halo, especially the storming the beach mission, and this is why everything you did is wrong because it ruins the gameplay flow. Those were the best posts.
It's like, damn, you got the people who made the original game just coming out and calling your asses out because you fucked it up so much.
Because they don't understand what made the original game fun. Like, all the thought and intent that went into it. And I think that's true about anybody who takes over a franchise, especially modernly, right? Is that they don't really understand why people liked the thing before they came into it. They understand what they like about it and what they want to do with it, but they don't understand broadly what the audience actually liked about it, what made the thing great, what was the intent of the original. And this really comes down to corporate, right? Where somebody above you owns the property. So they don't care if you leave. They're just going to have somebody else continue to make the property. And it's not going to have the same heart in it. While if you had more of like a better relationship with your devs, so they wouldn't necessarily leave in the first place, but something that's more like a successor or shadow ship program, like an apprenticeship program, where you are training the next people to continue with a similar intent, doesn't mean things won't change over time, but at least they'll kind of change in like a natural evolution that the fans maybe like and keep up with. You usually end up with a better result, but that's not anything that happens in these companies. It's just like, whatever, like it's a property, it's the name, it'll sell, just make whatever you want to make.
I mean, hell, look at Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, which probably would have been successful if it was anything other than a Banjo-Kazooie game.
Probably, yeah. It is technically the closest thing to Banjo 3E we were going to get, since some of the people who were working on that project were still there. It just evolved into Nuts and Bolts, and it evolved into Nuts and Bolts because, A, the team didn't think people would still be interested in how Banjo-Kazooie played before, which I think already is a ridiculous idea. That was the thing that they liked about the game in the first place. B, they really weren't interested in making the same game again. And C, open world games were starting to become like the thing, so they wanted to dive into it. That right there is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, it's like, I can only imagine how many people played that first little bit where they just, no, people don't want this. They want explosions and guns. I can only imagine how many people bought that game hoping for another Banjo game, seeing that bit, and then just turned the fucking console off.
Oh, yeah. They'd be like, listen, if I wanted a duo game with explosions and guns, I'd be playing Ratchet and Clank instead.
Which, of course, that stayed close to its roots,
yeah.
and look how many fucking games there are for that now.
I was never too much into them. Though we played, what was it, Free For All together. But from what I've heard,
Yeah.
and you can probably justify this more as somebody who's played more of them, the fan base for them generally still just likes the game. And even the one that was the tie-in for the movie mostly still played the way you expect a Ratchet and Clank game to play.
Oh yeah. In fact, the main complaints for that game is mostly because of the stuff that was left out for the sake of it tying into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of what it was a pretty good remake of the first game. It's just a lot of the changes to the story and a lot of things that were purposely left out was because they wanted you to play both the game and the movie, which is also one of the reasons the movie didn't do so well.
Yeah,
Because
it's just the same
the
story.
movie, yeah, the movie feels more like the story for a game you should be playing between these scenes than the game felt, and the game felt incomplete because of the bits that were just in the movie.
Yeah. This is about the time that we head out. But just one last question, because it came to my mind, and I'll let you answer this before we leave. Aside from Nintendo, like outside of Nintendo, do you think it would be fair to say that Ratchet and Clank is actually the strongest long-term mascot game?
Outside of Nintendo, yeah.
Yeah, like the one that's consistently stayed the same the longest.
Yeah, it's consistently stayed the same. It hasn't really veered that far off of its original formula.
It's still technically being made.
Yeah, it's still being made. Just fact, for all I know, there may be another one in the works. I don't know.
Yeah, because the game's
Because the last one did very well.
Yeah, it might be. I think we'll leave the audience with that to stew on. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah,
Oh, you can
I
close out.
definitely. Oh, sorry.
Well, so you could finish off whatever you're saying.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it's just. It is the longest standing mascot game because any other one that could have really competed with it to be near Nintendo's level is either changed so drastically that it's not the game it started out as, or it just flat out died out.
Yeah. Maybe the exception, Pac-Man might be up there. But the thing is, there just hasn't been a lot of innovation in Pac-Man. But they are actually always constantly making Pac-Man, so that might be the real winner, but I think that's also almost a cheat.
Yeah. I feel like Pac-Man is definitely a bit of a cheat because I feel like that the game formulas and stuff have changed so many times because of how drastic each of the things are that the only really thing keeping them together is that Pac-Man is just that popular.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you guys for watching, whether it's now or later on with the VOD in the future. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please grab that link, share it out with somebody else, anyone else. Don't care if you love them or hate them. And I'll see you guys, actually, maybe not even on this show tomorrow, because tomorrow might be when Arknight Enfield goes live. So still be on this channel if it is. We'll just be streaming gameplay instead. Catch you guys later.
See ya.